The subject of our investigation had recently moved to Colorado where she could be close to her new boyfriend. Her husband, who lived in another state, was fighting for custody of their children, as well for alimony and other financial considerations in their divorce case. I was working directly with the husband's law firm, so it made things a little easier for me in some ways. Working with an attorney or a law firm in civil matters many times can take a lot of the emotions out of the equation. As well, you will usually get pretty good details as to what the attorney is looking to get out of the investigation. Now, with that said, you need to make sure that your attorney, as well as all of your clients, understand that you cannot guarantee the outcome of the investigation. You should make sure to set the expectation that you will work to the best of your ability to gather all evidence that is observed during your investigation. Sometimes you will have attorneys that will say something like, "I need you to get video of her being intimate with him while they are out at a bar." Obviously, you can't guarantee this action will ever occur, nor can you guarantee they will ever even go to a bar, and you can't even guarantee that you will ever get any video. You simply do not know what will happen, what will not happen, or when it will happen. However, you can and should guarantee that you will work to the best of your abilities while conducting the investigation and will provide all of the evidence as it presents itself. The residence was in a standard residential neighborhood. The house was a larger house with a long driveway and attached 3-car garage. The neighborhood streets had only a few parked cars on them, and in most scenarios, it would seem to be the most perfect setup for surveillance. That's most scenarios, folks. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Given the fact that there were only 1 or 2 cars parked on the street, it really meant a new car was going to be a little more obvious in this neighborhood. Not only were there only a couple of cars parked on the street, but there were also no cars parked in any of the driveways. This makes any new car out there stand out even more. And to top it off, there were plenty of neighborhood watch signs up on every street. Another huge complication was the subject's ability to go in just about any direction once she left the residence. If she went downtown, she might go east. If she went shopping, she'd probably go north. If she went to her boyfriend's, she'd probably go south. And if she wanted to get away to the Denver area, she would probably go west. This is huge when you consider your setup, folks. You need to be where you can easily watch the residents, obtain video, and conduct your follow in a covert manner. Now remember, this is night surveillance. Initiating a covert follow is difficult at night, as you have to start your car, then you have to turn your headlights on, and you have to get going rather quickly. As well, you usually do not have as much warning or prep time. It just all happens right away, and you are usually in a reactionary mode. Now, I had, as I do with all of my cases, I had conducted some preliminary drive-bys and evaluation of the neighborhood and the surrounding area. I knew the complications prior to arriving and had already made up a plan as to where I could sit. There was a street about 2 blocks away where her street ended, and you had to turn left or right. There was also a house at the end of that street that was being remodeled right there, so it gave me good cover to sit in front of it, and most likely at night, that house would not have much activity. I could also see the garage door and the driveway, but I could easily also tell what way she would be driving, so I would be able to react as necessary. I set up so as pointing in the direction that she would most likely drive if she was going to her boyfriend's. I figured this was my best bet for getting the desired results for my client. Of course, she could always meet him somewhere else, so getting a good follow was important no matter what direction that she went. Now, I arrived on scene the same time that we knew that she got off work. We had good intel that ensured us that she would be getting off work, pick up the kids, and then head home before she did anything else. If she was going to go out, she would either take the kids over to her relatives or have a relative or a friend come and watch the kids at her house. About 30 minutes after I arrived, there she is, right on time with the kids. She pulls into the driveway, she parks, and her and the kids get out and they go into the house. I love it when a plan comes together. About an hour after that, I see another vehicle pull into the driveway and park, and another female subject enters the residence. Now, I had plates on most of her known associates and family in the immediate area, and I was able to identify that that vehicle was registered to her parents. Alrighty then, I say to myself, we are about to go. So I start my pre-chase prep routine. I get all of my equipment positioned where I need it, my covert camera in a handy spot, my camera up and pointed at the house and ready to get video, food and drinks secured, some of my blackouts removed so I don't have to take a lot of time taking them down, and I am ready to roll. Now I sat there and I waited and I waited And you know what else? I waited some more. Folks, here is a little secret about surveillance that most people simply do not know. There is a lot of waiting involved with surveillance. So make sure you have your patience and your diligence hat on, as you will need to remain patient and keep your eyes watching for the subject at all times. About an hour and a half later, here comes my subject, walking out to her car, all dolled up and ready to go. Kids come out with Grandma, and they wave as she drives off into the sunset. It was just starting to get dark, but I was able to get good video of her and the kids and see what direction that she went. Folks, here is another great tip. When working these type of cases where the client is at a distance and may not be able to see the kids very often, I always try to get some video of the kids for that client. I zoom in a little when I'm able to, so the client gets to see those smiling faces of his or her loved ones. No matter how brief the video, the client is always very appreciative. Okay, the chase is on. She went in the opposite direction of where I was parked. I didn't want to go right past the house as the kids and their grandmother were still outside. So I went around the neighborhood to where I suspected she might exit if she was heading out to her boyfriend's. And voila, there she was. I actually ended up getting in front of her due to a traffic light. I had the green light and she had the red, but it worked out quite well for me. I just drove the most likely route to the town where her boyfriend lived, and I kept her in my rearview mirror at all times. Now, I'm fairly familiar with the town that her boyfriend lives in, so when we get off the main highway, I just kept her in my rearview mirror. Luckily for me, a couple of cars had gotten in between us, so she didn't see my car the entire time. Following from the front, folks, is much more challenging, but when you know where they're going to be going, it does help a lot. Now, as we approach the residence where her boyfriend lives, there are two roundabouts. I love roundabouts for many reasons. In this case, I just got into the first roundabout and I went slowly all the way around until I was behind my subject. Then at the next roundabout, I did the same thing, and this ended up putting two cars between us. It was perfect. Now, as she entered the boyfriend's neighborhood, I grabbed a little bit of video of her entering, and then I went around the neighborhood to another street where I knew that I could get positioned and I could get some video of her vehicle at this house. Much to my surprise, though, I was able to actually get video of her and him right after she arrived. It looked like he may have just gotten home as well, and they had a really nice warm greeting right there in the driveway. Now, after they went inside, I got set up in the neighborhood where I could watch her vehicle, his vehicle, and the front of the residence. I got all blacked out and set up, and then I waited. A key thing to make sure you get on video in these types of cases, folks, is the front of the house and what lights are on. If you see lights go on or off, then get video of that as well. You can't always see what's happening inside the house, but your client can surmise by this type of activity. Now, when they first went inside, almost all of the downstairs got lit up. On occasion, I would see a shadow walk past the window. After about 30 minutes, I see a food delivery arrive at the residence. Then I see him answer the door, pay the delivery driver, take the food, and go back inside. I also noticed he was in a more comfortable clothing situation. He was wearing a bathrobe when he got the food. So I figured I could settle in for the night, or at least for a good portion of the night. Shortly after the dinner arrived, I could see the flicker of a television screen, and then about an hour and a half later, I see the TV lights go off. Then an upstairs light goes on, and then the downstairs lights go off. Shortly after that, upstairs light goes off, and the only interior light visible appears to be a dim light in the upstairs hallway and the stairwell. Now, about 2 a.m., I decided I could head home. I know she's still there. I've got my time shot showing her vehicle present. I got the video I needed, and I was good to go. I plan on going home, sleeping a few hours, then going back out and getting some video as she leaves the next day because we knew she had to go to work. Now, I get up after a couple of hours of sleep, and I head out. I decided to drive past her house just in case. And yep, when I got there, her mom's car was gone. I then hightailed it over to her boyfriend's, and her car was not there. I then go back to her house. I set up surveillance, and about an hour later, here she comes, driving her car out of the garage with the kids all loaded up. I then followed her to the daycare where she dropped off the kids, some more great intel from a client, and then I followed her to work. Now I had some great information to further assist me in the case as it moved forward. I ended up working this case for about 4 weeks, varying nights each week. Almost every night, it was the same situation. She would end up at his house, have dinner, watch TV, spend a few hours doing whatever in the dark. Then she would head home. Except on the weekends. On the weekends, he would go over to her house and spend the nights. This was more valuable information for the client, and since he didn't live there, he always parked right out on the street. Folks, conducting night surveillance for long periods of time is very taxing on your body and your mind. I was doing 8 to 10 hour shifts, then going back out in the morning for shorter periods. It's one thing to stay up 1 or 2 nights, but to sit in your car 3 to 4 nights a week in total darkness, hours on end, during the time you would normally be sleeping is difficult, to say the least. You need to make sure that you're prepared for these cases. Maybe stay up late a few nights prior. Make sure you got proper food and drink. Make sure you have a place where everything goes in your car so you can find it in the dark, and be prepared